New business, payment of bills.
We received about 5 questions on bills. Scott, do you have quick explanations to those 5 questions?
Yes. Board book page 149, CDW. There was also CDW and zones. It's all linked together. What happened here is we had to split the order between 2 different vendors for the Chromebooks. The reason we did that was to have Chromebooks available for the first day of residency. CDW guaranteed us delivery date for that first day, and zones just could not, so we split the order on it with it. It would have been a bad thing not to have that for our incoming freshmen to get their Chromebook at the first day of residency.
Cintas?
Cintas is our contractual sprinkler vendor. They completed life safety work for Amendment 22. The major cost on this one was to add additional sprinkler heads at various locations and then also add some drain pipes to the system.
I think there was one other one about, just while you're sticking on that, I mean, the board doesn't need to shift pages, but on 151 there was a question about ESCO, and that was also life safety work, and that was our fire alarm company added additional sensors and additional alarm detections. 150, Scott, you have
Des Plaines Valley Region, local share. This is the district's local match to be part of the Des Plaines Valley Regional Cooperative for Career and Technical Education Programs.
E2 services.
E2 services, our old Sonic wall is not able to handle the upgraded speed of the new internet that we had, so it had to be updated in order to handle that.
What's the Sonic wall?
It's the firewall, so it wasn't able to process the
traffic.
I'm not exactly an expert in that, but I just know it's for security purposes, and it wouldn't be able to handle the speed of the new stuff with it. So
LaGrange Crane.
Hold on a second.
Oh, sorry.
I'm completely confused. So E2 services is what kind of service? Do you know?
I do not know. I leave that up to the expert, our technology director, to make sure that it provides security for firewall for our students who are surfing or using the internet.
Oh, that's okay.
Right. So now that we increased our bandwidth because we got all 4 grade levels, that size firewall wasn't enough protection, so we had to upgrade the firewall.
Now I got it. Thank you.
LaGrange Crane.
Board book 153. We had a coil go out on one of our HVAC units and needed the crane to hoist it up onto the roof. This was the best way to do it. It was a safety issue to try to have air marks guys move it through the building.
And I think that covers everything. Tim Lance was a transitional payment, and that was a settlement from a special ed case for out-of-district tuition on page 162.
All right. Move on to,
Do we gotta approve them?
Yeah.
we have the,
The vote?
Yep, we got to vote.
Well,
There was still one question that was submitted on the flood insurance.
I addressed that.
Okay.
he explained that to me. But did we pull out the payment to?
Oh, for Accra?
Oh, we have one bill, I'm sorry. We had a board member submit a request to pull out one bill and take an individual vote for Accra, which provides our services for data collection on student test performance and teacher evaluations. So Mary Ann, do we need to reread the resolution?
We haven't read
We
it
haven't,
yet.
we haven't read the
Yeah,
resolution
okay.
yet, so.
So if Tim, if you want to read the resolution with the pulling of the Accra bill,
Well, say as amended, and the amendment will be pulling the Accra bill.
okay?
And then we'll do a separate resolution for that, okay, Mary Ann? Resolved, the Board of Education Township High School District 2A, Cook County, Illinois approves as amended, the payment of bills as presented and listed in the August 14, 2018 Board Agenda Packet.
Second?
All right. Go.
Ms. Sierra?
Yes.
Mr. Smithing?
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Prescott?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
And Mr. Rich?
Yes. All right, now we want a separate
You know, 'cause I think
resolution?
that's not actually the name on there, is it? Accra.
Chris, I believe it is, isn't it?
I think it is.
I think it is.
Okay.
Page.
All right. Hold on a second.
Accra Group Incorporated.
Okay.
Page 150.
Resolved, the Board of Education Township High School, District 2A, Cook County, Illinois hereby approves the payment to Accra, what was it, Kristen?
Accra Group Incorporated.
Accra Group Incorporated, as presented and listed in August 14, 2018 Board Agenda Packet.
Second.
I'm not going to get into a big discussion on this, but I think we're overpaying them. They didn't deliver what's promised, and I won't approve the full payment to them personally, so that's why I asked to have it voted separately.
All right, go for the vote.
Can we have more discussion on this?
Sure.
This, so right now, it's just the first installment?
Right.
And what do you mean by the total payment?
Well, that we pay them twice a year. Each one's, the total's about $35,000.
It's 17.5.
So it's
We
$35,000.
paid that last year, then.
We paid
We paid 35 last year. We paid 35 the year before. Tim had asked for a contract analysis. I had the attorneys do a contract analysis. I think Ed and those guys were still on the board. The attorney came back that they felt that we were paying for what we were receiving.
That's not what they said. Let's not get in what the attorney said. What the discussion we had is whether they were delivering what they promised. And the attorney said we probably couldn't, under the contract, go after it for them. But they promised to deliver things at a high level for the board. The administration is very happy with the detailed information they're giving, but they promised more than that. And they never delivered it, they never tried to deliver it, and they've never tried to give us a credit for some adjustment because they didn't deliver. And that's my opinion on it.
Is this what year of the contract is this then?
This is the third year, isn't it?
Third or fourth year. It's a renewal every year.
So we have to vote on the renewal?
It's something that's budgeted for, so it's not something that gets voted on every year. It's part of our budget for our services that we need to operate the school.
Isn't that one that comes up after the 3 years, Scott? It's not one that automatically renews.
No, it is an automatic renewal at this, no price increase.
Maybe you were absent when all that was going on for 2 months.
No, I recall the discussion. I'm just trying to think, maybe we can bring this up. I mean, if we're gonna to me, if there's a controversy about this and it's renewable, I mean, we should, have a separate discussion before we approve the whole thing in the budget.
I don't agree. So the administration is using these services to manage our evaluation tool, so it's not something that can sit dormant. And so we also are using it to do all the data that we're presenting and tracking for the board. So it's not something that it changes, we we could eventually put an RFP while we continue to pay their services. Where the big controversy came in is when Steve Humphries came and presented to the board, he promised that he was able to be able to do some reports for the board. We could track us compared to the top 10 high schools in the state of Illinois. And then they brought a report that compared us to not a real school, but a school similar to us. And then they
couldn't get.
Well, then they couldn't share what schools they
Right.
were using data because we would need data agreements with all those schools. And this went on for a couple months.
But
where
are we gonna have a report out by you about the use of the Accra data?
That's everything you get is from Accra
Kristen's
data.
reported on that.
All the reports you get for our performance bonuses and our growth, and all that's done by Accra for us.
Right, but when's that coming?
This fall, every fall we give it.
Right.
Yeah, the big failure was the fact that,
The
and I
reports
think
they
we
did
were
for the
part
board.
is how we wanted to benchmark ourselves against other schools and see the progression, and they failed to give us any kind of good indication.
And instead of saying, all right, since we can't do it, we'll reduce the price by 10%, we wouldn't have this discussion every 6 months. They just don't deliver what they promised.
But they also
And I
agreed
don't
to-
think as a public body, we should keep paying a vendor who promised something, was unable to, and twice we read their reports, one was worse than the other one, and they keep billing us without delivering what they promised. No matter how happy Kristen and her staff is with the part she gets. They still aren't delivering the full benefit of what we bargained for, and I won't approve. I can't in good conscience keep voting to keep paying them the full amount.
One of the things that we were able to negotiate with them when this came up last year, and Tim voted against the payment, was there was no annual increase. Where most contracts usually go up by, CPI or something there, a set rate.
Is this payment in advance for the upcoming school year?
Yes, it's split into two. One when it's for a first semester, and then there'll be one second semester.
Is that it, John?
And we're gonna get the report in the fall based on their data.
Yeah, so that all comes when we talk about ACT data, SAT data, all of that information comes from Accra.
So here's I guess, they feed their data in and they're using the detailed data. Do we want to bring them back up here and discuss the macro side of this contract again? And open the door?
It's okay with me if you want to.
I'd like that. I mean, it bothers me that any board member is upset about this, and I understand I understand that there is value to this, but it should be.
Well, I think the thing I'm upset about is not that Tim has a concern. I think Tim has a right to a concern. Is a year ago, maybe 15 months ago, he voiced the same concern, so we had the attorney. We met with Steve Humphreys. We met with Steve Humphreys and the attorney. We did a full-blown review of their contract, the macro, the micro. And so what kind of came from that was they're delivering the services that we need to operate the school and to make the data analysis point. They never delivered the board reports that Steve did in his sales presentation at a public meeting to the board.
I made a simple analogy. You pay somebody to paint 10 rooms and they paint 8, you don't pay them for the 10. That's what we're doing. They did a wonderful job on 8 rooms and they didn't do the other 2, I wouldn't pay them. And that's the situation here, and regardless of whether the attorney said we could go after them and force them to do it or not, which was their determination, they promised they were gonna paint 10 rooms and they painted 8. And we keep paying them the full amount. And I just don't think it's right.
Are there alternative vendors out there?
Not to my knowledge. We went through this before
Right.
we
Yeah, I'm just,
adopted.
I
have
didn't
no
know if there
problems with
had
paying
been
for the
new
8
alternative,
rooms.
any new data collection services out there or not.
No, and I think if we
Have been
get another
doing it
year or
well.
2 under our belt with our evaluation, and we have 4 years of evaluation data, we may be able to sit down and do a new contract. I need another year or so to get 4 years under the state evaluation model, because we're tracking the proficiency, and that depends on people's livelihoods,
Understood.
tenure. So I can't just go and throw this out there, because that's why we put all the time into it a year ago or so, and we had, I think Ed was still on the board, and it was a lengthy discussion. We had a couple
Yeah,
lengthy
we have.
discussions about it.
Nobody ever disagreed they didn't deliver what they promised. Our attorney said we couldn't do anything about it. I disagree with that. And I'm doing it not as an attorney, as a voting board member. They painted 8 rooms, they promised 10, why do we keep paying them for the 10 rooms? We're perfectly happy with the 8 rooms they painted. But they didn't deliver them, they've never come back and said, you're right, we promised more, we'll cut the fee by 2% or 5% or 10%. And I
But what-
just don't think it's right.
But what they did do was not increase their fee in order to
So
make up for it.
How does that make up for it? The agreement, did it allow them to raise their fee?
Were the new members, I don't believe the new members actually saw their presentation today.
No, this is all new to
We did
me.
not.
I'm kind of,
So what we maybe
I'm
need
gonna
to
think
do,
if we're not
well,
happy with
basically,
somebody, we need to tell them we're not happy.
Well, I would back off.
We have-
I would say Tim's not happy, because
Okay.
the presentation they made to the board.
well, I wasn't happy with it either, because I walked away saying basically you have to physically move up your campus and move it to a different demographics is what I expressed at the
The
time.
biggest thing that was the snag with the vendor and the board was when they did their analysis and they did the report for us, it was based on a hypothetical high school that had similar demographics. And our board wanted specific data, like well, no, we want Hinsdale Central's data, we want Stevenson data. And they said, we can't give you their data and compare it to it because you'd have to have data agreements. And we were going back, then they brought the president of the company in to speak to the entire board. So, I mean, we vetted this extensively. I'm not saying I gave you the answer you're looking for.
They didn't. We told them what we wanted ahead of time. They said they'd deliver, and afterwards, after we paid them, they said they couldn't. And they keep charging us and keep not delivering. And again, I'll keep saying it. You're perfectly happy with the 8 rooms. They delivered well. I have no problems paying for that. But they're not delivering on the other 2, and we keep paying them. And unless you take a stance like that, all your vendors are going to take advantage of, or could. Say, well, they'll pay you no
Because
matter
they
what you
haven't had
do.
that. I think I do a good job of making sure our vendors don't take advantage of it.
Again, I'm one vote.
So
I'm just saying,
when
Well,
can,
what happens is, you know, then Dr. King starts, he feels like he's missing something.
But in the
Oh, I wanna make sure.
whether we're happy with the data that they are supposedly supposed to be coming in front of us and presenting this summarized macro data. We haven't seen it in the past year.
Yeah, we haven't seen it.
So what I'd like at least, why don't they come and get a presentation in front of the new board, since there are 3 new members here who haven't seen one iota of their presentation. And they can get an assessment of whether they're happy with it. And also if you can send the contract to those board members so they can see what was specified in that contract. Because basically it was we thought it was a benchmarking tool that we can start using as a basis to benchmark against. We didn't necessarily identify that data as being Hinsdale Central. What we wanted to say was put it in a pool of what we thought were schools we'd like to benchmark. You don't have to tell us which ones they are and how we compare with these certain metrics. And when they presented it, they fell flat on their face and they couldn't present it. But I think in the contract, it says they should be coming out, making a macro presentation in front of the board, and I think we at least get that to come out there again and see how we're, see how that, and then let the 3 new board members see that
Yeah, I
presentation.
mean, I'm familiar with Accra. I've worked with them before.
Yeah.
I've never known them to be able to provide that kind of information.
Well, they promised that to us.
That's why I'm surprised to
We
hear
had them
that.
here before we signed the contract, and we
So that's
drilled them and said, we want to
interesting.
use it as a benchmarking tool, and they said, sure, no problem.
Promising you something and then says, oh, well.
Right.
Yeah, I had
money,
no
can't
idea
do
they
it.
could
No
provide
doubt.
that type of information.
Right?
What happened that night was that
He has to sit here and he has
He
to
was in
listen
front
to
of the
10
board.
for 10 minutes, for 20 minutes.
Correct.
Because
But no,
Get our money out.
no, the issue is they made a presentation in order to get us to even sign up.
Right.
And we said we want to use it as a benchmarking tool, and here are the specifics and how we want to benchmark it. Sure, no problem.
sounds very frustrating to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we got rid of them, it would be a data manager in-house, which is a salary and.
No problem.
And
No,
software.
we
Talking about getting rid
understand,
of
we
them.
understand.
I don't think that's
We-
something-
No, that's not
I don't
the
think
issue.
so.
We
You don't always
understand
have to
it.
throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah. No, we don't,
I
understand.
keep saying, she's
Well, if
perfectly
you won't
happy
pay
with
the
it.
bill, then you're throwing the
Well,
baby
they'll
out
come
with
in
the
and-
bathwater.
No, I'm not.
Yes,
It
you
gives them an
are.
opportunity to come in and say, you're right, we didn't deliver, we'll cut our costs, our fees. It's simple.
So you're strong-arming them.
No, I'm saying, deliver what you said.
Okay, so I think we need to take a vote on this.
We'll take a vote
payment.
on that, but can we set them up so that they come out and maybe we get the contract in hands of the new board members so they can see what the contract and how we want the
Yeah, come
contract
out,
to
give
go.
I would love to see the
Yeah,
contract.
all right.
Absolutely.
Fair enough.
I have one more question. When can we terminate it in the contract?
At the end of this fiscal year.
Yeah.
So
We
that
have to
would
give them
be,
60 or 90 days notice.
But John, before we
To
terminate
hire a
it, we need
data
to have
manager
something else in
and
place.
a lot of
I'm
software.
not saying we should terminate it. I'm just trying to think ahead.
Right.
If we're not happy with them.
Well, that's why I raised the question of their alternative data
you guys aren't
collection
happy with
service.
them.
I'm happy with
I'm
them.
No,
happy.
talking to the new board members.
Right.
And so we're
And
all on the
staff
same
is
page.
happy with them.
I know.
Yes, and that's
But-
what we pay them for, is to take their recommendation. And so if
I think-
Kristen and Kevin are
We
happy,
rebid out all kinds of things all the time. We look at whether someone can do it better or not,
Right.
or not, all the time. So
Right.
But one of,
if we want to do that, then I think we
hey,
should do that.
but one of the things we did ask them was for benchmarking to come and make presentations,
Right.
and we
They
didn't
should be-
get one last year, so
should be getting
I
the
think we need to at least get that. If
Was it
they're-
last year when John Gotta came in?
I did.
No,
It
it was a year ago.
What's the year
It was
before?
last year, but it might have been before the new board started. Might have been towards the end of Mike
So that would be 15 months.
Ed's term.
Yeah, 'cause I don't remember that at all.
Because we had the president of the company come, and then Dr. King and John started arguing about statistic analysis and the p-value, and that's what I was trying to say, like, okay,
I'm gonna do this fun.
Well, you can take a look at the
We went
records.
in
I think it was
depth on
2
a
years,
lot
I
of
think it
it.
was 2 years ago, but,
Okay.
but whatever.
All right.
Well,
let's
look,
move on.
here's the point, and I think Gary would agree with me, this whole educational industrial complex is used to coming before boards and just doing a sales job, and everyone on the board says, oh, okay, okay, okay. I mean, this board, I think, may be unique in the fact we've got well-qualified individuals who are questioning this stuff, so I think it's good. And I'd like to see Accra sort of respond to us instead of just, and give them a chance when they come in. So that's all I got to say.
All right, let's go with the vote.
Mr. Smithing?
Yes.
Ms. Towner?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
No.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Sierra?
Yes.
Mr. Grichuk?
Yes.